Taro Sakamoto was considered the greatest hitman of all time. Feared by many, he stood at the top of the underground world until he met and fell in love with a woman. As a result, Sakamoto abandoned his life of crime and now works as a convenience store clerk. Leaving his shady past behind proves more difficult than Sakamoto initially imagined. Many of his former rivals and partners do not believe that he has truly left the business and show up in hopes of taking him out. Barred from killing, Sakamoto must find creative ways to subdue his enemies and prevent them from bringing harm to his family, his store, and the small town he resides in. That was the synopsis for the latest hit manga from Shonen Jump to receive an animated adaptation coming out in just a couple of days on Netflix, Sakamoto Days. And based on the synopsis, based on the things I've heard, I've never actually read the manga, I am hyped. This show seems to have a lot of what I like in anime, mostly an overpowered protagonist. That's just a trope that I'll never get sick of, just an absolute Chad of a protagonist. That first episode of Fist of the North Star still hits like crack to me. お前はもう死んでいる。何? But this show also has some action comedy in it, which is something I also like. You know, I like One Punch Man. I like Dragon Ball. This takes the trope of the overpowered anime protagonist and kind of flips it on his head by turning him into this fat, unassuming, this convenience store clerk that you would never expect to be this just absolute Chad, this absolute badass that's just taking people out. And I've never actually seen the show, but that's what this seems what it's going to be like. And I've been excited for this for a very long time because I've been hearing about how good the manga is for a very long time, and I still haven't read any of it. I haven't gone out of my way to read it. I'm more of an anime guy. I prefer to watch the anime. So I've been waiting for this to come out, but there's been an issue. And the issue comes around the reception to some of the trailers and to the opening when it was released by Netflix, and some of the skepticism and some of what I like to call in the anime community sakuga brain rot that's been going around lately. And I'm blaming anime like JJK and Demon Slayer. And, don't get me wrong, great animation is awesome. I'm always going to take MAPPA level or UFO table level animation if we can get it, but that's just not always the case. And there are ways to make fight scenes and other scenes, drama scenes and everything hit without having this like insane sakuga animation. And I feel like people have forgotten about that, but because they're watching JJK, and I'm sorry, man, JJK is mid. Like, it's got animation. That's it. I do not know how anyone is watching reading the JJK manga. The manga art is ugly, and the show is just fights. The characters suck. The story sucks. The power system's kind of cool, I guess, but there's nothing there to really get me invested in all these fights that are happening over and over again. But people will praise it like it's the next coming of Dragon Ball Z, a show that has cool story and amazing characters, just because it's got this insanely great animation. And I've watched every episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm not caught up with the manga. It's over now. I know that, I'm not interested enough in the characters to read ahead. I'm just going to wait till the anime comes out, and then I'll watch these like awesomely animated fight scenes. But we're getting off topic. Sakamoto Days doesn't need to be Sakuga Days, okay? If the writing and the characters are anything like as good as it seems in the trailers or what people are talking about, then the level of animation that's in the trailers is fine. It's beyond fine. It looks good. Even the early trailers that people were complaining about. There's a new trailer out now that a lot of people are more happy about, but I feel like the things that I've seen in the earlier trailers has already got me excited for the anime. I've already, thought that based on these trailers that it's going to deliver on everything that I want from it to be. As long as you could get cool impact frames and like the in-between shots are just like decently animated where there's a little bit of movement, I'm happy. As long as we don't have PNG lock going on here, I'm happy. Okay? Sakamoto Days looks like it has movement, okay? This isn't like Way of the House Husband, all right? We're seeing the movement in the trailers. There's movement in the fight scenes, so I really don't know what everybody is crying about. The animation looks beyond decent to me. And if this level of animation is not enough for this to be a hit show and for people to like it, then that just means that the manga sucks. I'm sorry. Just full stop. That means that the writing and the characters suck. Full stop. If this level of animation is not good enough to get the show by and have people invest in it, then the writing sucks. Point blank. And so we're going to see how good Sakamoto Days actually is, because I'm not the type of guy to let a show get carried by animation. I'm come from an older generation where I was watching anime in the 90s. I grew up on Rurouni Kenshin, Dragon Ball Z, Ronin Warriors, all that stuff that was on Toonami, Sailor Moon. Okay, and there were moments of great animation here and there, but for the most part, the animation was pretty mid. I was coming back for the story, for the characters, for these Eastern ways of telling stories that you weren't used to. I was coming into it for, the guys screaming, "Ah!" turning into Super Saiyans and stuff, and it didn't matter if Goku was punching Frieza at 3,000 frames per second, okay? It didn't matter if he was punching him at 2 frames per second. The shit was badass. And that was because I was invested in the characters. I was invested in the story. And if Sakamoto Days doesn't have that, then it's just not going to be good enough for me. Like I said, I don't really care about JJK, and I watch it, and I don't really care about the animation. When I don't really pay attention to animation, or at least I didn't until it became like seemingly the only thing on the internet that anime fans cared about, is that you could have this peak scene come out, but if the animation wasn't like the most amazing thing ever, then people on the internet would go off and say it's mid or it's trash. I've got news for you guys, okay? If peak animation is your thing, you should watch some like early Disney movies, because they've got some insane animation. Now, the story is about a princess, and it's not really that cool, but the animation is fire, and they were doing that since like the 40s or something. Okay, the animation in Lion King, that's gas, man. That is gas. But nobody's turning Super Saiyan. Nobody's going dynamic. Nobody's touching anybody on the forehead and saying you're already dead. Okay, none of that's happening. But the animation's fire. So, my point here is that give Sakamoto Days a chance, and it looks to me like the characters and the story are going to be pretty peak, and it's going to be funny, and it's going to be action-packed, and honestly, the fight scenes, they look cool to me. I'm honestly not that big of a fan of Sakuga. When I first started watching JJK, I'm sitting here seeing everybody online say, "Oh, this is peak. This is amazing. This is great." And then I go and I watch it, and being someone that it doesn't really pay attention to animation, I watched the first season and I was like, what the hell is so great about this? I don't get it. Todo is cool, but that was about it. Gojo has a cool character design, but he's kind of a ripoff of Kakashi, but that was it. Until I started noticing that what people really liked about it was the insane fight animation. That was it. And so I would go back and I'd be like, oh yeah, I guess this does have really good animation. I never even noticed it first. Can you believe that? I didn't even notice the peak animation in JJK at first. It was the same thing for Demon Slayer. I watched the first season of Demon Slayer, and I was like, man, this show kind of sucks. I went and saw the Mugen Train movie, and that was fire. And it wasn't because of the animation. It wasn't until later that I realized that the only reason that people liked the first season of Demon Slayer is because of the animation. Because nothing really that cool happens outside of the first episode that sets up the plot. And then the Hashira getting introduced in the last episode. And then other than that, I didn't really care about anything in the story. And I don't know how I powered through the first season, but I'm glad I did, because I like Demon Slayer now, because I like the Hashira, because I like OP characters that show up and are just absolute chads and badasses, like Kenshin, like Goku, like Kenshiro. I like that kind of thing. So when the badass characters show up, I'm into that. And Taro Sakamoto seems like one of those characters, so I think I'm going to be a fan of Sakamoto Days if the character writing is good and the animation is competent. And that's all I care about. And I think that as an anime community, we kind of need to get back to only caring about, well, not only caring, but caring more about the writing than we do the animation. I would take like awesomely animated and well-drawn key animation frames and like impact shots over just like pure sakuga any day of the week. Things like this look great to me, where the impact frames really add weight to the attacks and bring more drama to the fight, as opposed to 10 billion frames per second sakuga, where it's just nondescript kung fu fighting and the quote-unquote choreography doesn't really stand out from anything else. I would rather take like awesomely animated like impact frames and stuff like that over just like pure sakuga, because if I wanted that, I would just watch a kung fu movie. Anyways, Sakamoto Days looks awesome to me, and I will be watching day one to see what it's all about, and maybe even coming back and reviewing some episodes on this channel. I know this channel, to my like 10 subscribers or whatever, has been inactive for a while, but if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, click the like button on this video, help spread this out. I'm really excited for Sakamoto Days, and if you are excited for Sakamoto Days, let me know in the comments down below. And until the next video, I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.